My girlfriend posted, OMG, I need freedom. After I asked about boundaries, I texted, got it. Then I ended our lease renewal, paused the wedding venue hold, and scheduled a move-out inspection. When the landlord emailed her deposit statement, she finally called me, screaming. I, 32 male, thought my fiancée, Cora, 29, and I were building the most important project of our lives. We were 2 years into a lease on a great apartment. We had a wedding venue on a soft hold, and we were talking about forever. But I missed a critical variable. Cora's definition of partnership was conditional. The stress point had a name. Finn. He's her lifelong best friend. A chaotic whirlwind of a person who viewed our shared space as his personal clubhouse. He'd let himself in at all hours with a tea Cora gave him, help himself to my whiskey, and leave a trail of messes. My favorite was finding him asleep on our sofa one morning when I had a 7 a.m. client meeting. After months of this, I finally sat Cora down. It was a calm, rational conversation. Hey, I started, I love that you and Finn are so close. But we're building a life together, and we need our home to be our sanctuary. Can we agree on some boundaries? Maybe he could text before coming over, and I'd feel more comfortable if he didn't have his own tea. I thought it was a reasonable request. It was about partnership, about creating a we instead of a you, me, and your friend who treats me like an ATM with a couch. Cora got defensive. She called me controlling, insecure. The conversation went nowhere. The next evening, while scrolling through my phone, I saw it. A public post on her social media, visible to our 500+ mutual friends. It was a filtered, pouty selfie of her, captioned, "Feeling so suffocated lately. Some people just want to put you in a cage and call it a relationship. OMG, I just need freedom." The comments poured in from her circle. Yas, queen. Don't let any man dull your sparkle. And you owe him nothing. Live your life. I stared at the screen. There was no anger, no shouting match in my head. Just a profound and sudden clarity. It was like looking at a blueprint and finally seeing the fatal design flaw. She didn't see my request for boundaries as a step toward a stronger partnership. She saw it as a cage. She didn't want to build a life with me. She wanted me to build a life around her. And she announced it to the world. So I decided to give her exactly what she asked for. I picked up my phone and sent her a text. Got it. She didn't reply. She was probably busy soaking in the validation from her echo chamber. Then I opened my laptop and began my work. The lease. Our lease renewal was due in a week. We'd already given our verbal intent to renew for another year. I opened my email, found the message thread with our property manager, and wrote a polite, formal email. Dear property manager, after careful consideration, we will not be renewing our lease for apartment 4B. Please accept this as our official 30-day notice to vacate. Please let us know the process for the pre-move-out inspection and the final settlement of our security deposit. I hit send. The wedding. We had a soft hold on a beautiful venue, the Abernathy Gardens, for next fall. The hold was secured with a small refundable $500 deposit. I called the events coordinator. Hi, this is Leo. I'm calling about the reservation for myself and Cora. We need to cancel. I understand we'll forfeit the deposit, and that's fine. The coordinator was sympathetic. It took less than 5 minutes. The hold was released. The move. I went back to the property manager's email and sent a follow-up. To facilitate a smooth transition, I would like to schedule the pre-move-out inspection at your earliest convenience. The entire process took maybe 20 minutes. I felt a weird, unnerving calm. I wasn't destroying our life in a fit of rage. I was simply executing the project plan she had just publicly authored. She wanted freedom. I was facilitating the logistics. Cora came home a few hours later, acting like nothing had happened. She gave me the cold shoulder, clearly expecting me to apologize for my controlling behavior. I didn't. We spent the next 2 days in chilly silence. She was waiting for me to break. I was waiting for the emails to land. The first one arrived in her inbox on Friday afternoon. It was from the property management company, addressed to both of us. The subject line read, Notice of non-renewal and scheduled pre-move-out inspection for Apt 4B. 30 seconds later, my phone rang. Her name flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again and again. Then a string of texts. What did you do? The landlord just emailed me. Are we being evicted? Leo, pick up the phone right now. Finally, I answered. The sound that came through the speaker was not a conversation. It was a raw, hysterical scream. "What did you do?" "I gave you the freedom you wanted," I said calmly. "You were feeling suffocated, so I opened the cage." Update 1. The screaming phone call was just the opening act. Once the initial shock wore off, Cora's hysteria morphed into a potent blend of disbelief and indignation. "You're ending everything over one stupid social media post?" she yelled, her voice cracking. "I was just venting. That's what people do." "You didn't vent, Cora. You made a public declaration," I replied, keeping my tone even. "You told our friends and family that our relationship was a cage. I took that seriously. I'm respecting your clearly stated wishes." "Respecting my wishes? You're trying to make me homeless. You're punishing me. This is insane, Leo. You need to call the landlord right now and fix this. Tell them it was a mistake." There it was. Not an apology, not a moment of self-reflection, just a demand. A demand that I reverse the consequences of her actions. "No," I said. "The notice has been given. We have 26 days left on the lease." The conversation ended with her slamming the phone down. The next phase of her strategy involved deploying Finn as her ambassador. He showed up the next evening, letting himself in with his key for what I assumed was the last time. He had this smug, placating smile on his face. "Leo, buddy," he said, plopping down on my armchair. "We need to talk. Cora's a mess. You really did a number on her." "I didn't do anything, Finn. I just listened to what she said she wanted." "Come on, man. You know how she is. She's dramatic. It's part of her charm," he said with a condescending chuckle. "You can't just blow up your whole life because of a little online drama. You're the stable one. You're supposed to be the anchor." It was so clear. In their world, my role was to be the stable, predictable foundation that absorbed her chaos. My feelings, my boundaries, my public image, none of it mattered. I was the infrastructure. She was the sparkle. "The anchor just cut the rope," I said. I walked over to the door and held it open. "And while we're at it, I'll need that key back." His smile vanished. He stared at me, then at the open door. He reluctantly fished the key out of his pocket, dropped it into my hand, and left. Cora's new tactic was weaponized helplessness. She seemed to believe that if she ignored the problem, it would go away. She made zero effort to look for a new apartment. She didn't pack a single box. She just continued to live in our shared space, alternating between stony silence and tearful accusations about how I was ruining her life. She clearly expected me to cave, to fix it all at the last minute and beg her to stay. I didn't engage. I went online and ordered a moving kit. Boxes, packing tape, bubble wrap, labels. When it arrived, I started packing, methodically, systematically. I started with the office, then my books, then my half of the closet. Every packed and labeled box was another brick in the wall being built between us. It was a tangible, visible timeline of our ending. She would watch me from the couch, her eyes filled with a sort of shocked fury. How dare I continue with this? How dare I not fall apart? Last night, I sent her a text, keeping it purely informational. "The movers will be here on the 25th to collect my belongings. The final cleaning service is scheduled for the morning of the 28th. Per the lease agreement, the apartment must be fully vacated by 5 p.m. on the 30th. Please make arrangements for your items." Her reply came back instantly. "Where am I supposed to go?" I looked at her text for a long time. It wasn't my problem to solve anymore. I was no longer her project manager. I didn't reply. Update 2. The final weeks in the apartment were a slow-motion demolition. As my packed boxes stacked up, creating neat, orderly towers, Cora's denial began to crack, revealing the ugly, entitled core beneath. Her helplessness curdled into resentment. The artifact of our relationship, the symbol of the future we were supposed to build, was a scale model of a house we had designed together. I'm a designer, and I'd spent hundreds of hours on it. It was a beautiful, intricate model with a removable roof, tiny, custom-printed furniture, and a landscaped garden. It sat on a dedicated table in our living room, a constant reminder of our shared dream. To me, it was the physical manifestation of our partnership. I came home from work last Tuesday, 4 days before my scheduled move, to find it desecrated. Cora and Finn had clearly had a few drinks. They hadn't smashed it. What they did was worse. They'd staged a party in it. They'd put a doll's plastic high-heel shoe through the roof, scribbled graffiti on the tiny walls with a marker, and placed a little plastic figurine of a dog on the miniature master bed as if it were defecating. And of course they posted it online. A picture of them grinning, holding wine glasses over the vandalized model. Cora's caption: "Out with the old, in with the new. Housewarming party for one. Freedom, unleashed, goodbye cage." The breath left my body. It was such a juvenile, petty, and profoundly cruel act. They weren't just ending a relationship, they were mocking the very dream I had so carefully constructed. The vulnerability I felt in that moment was staggering, a cold wave of hurt that was sharper than any anger. That hurt lasted for about an hour. Then it hardened into something else: resolve. I didn't confront her, I didn't say a word. I simply took out my phone and meticulously photographed the damage from every angle. I screenshotted her social media post with all the gleeful comments from her friends. I documented everything. The pre-move-out inspection with the property manager was 2 days later. Cora refused to be present. I walked through the apartment with the manager, a checklist in his hand. He noted the normal wear and tear. Then we got to the living room carpet. There was a large, dark red wine stain that hadn't been there a week ago, and on the wall behind where the model used to sit, there were several deep scuffs and a chip in the plaster. The manager noted it all down. "The carpet stain will require a professional treatment, and this wall will need to be patched and repainted," he said neutrally. "It'll come out of the security deposit." I nodded. "Understood." My movers came on the 25th as scheduled. They cleared out my boxes, my furniture, my life. I left Cora's things untouched. She sat on the couch amidst the echo of our shared life, watching me go without a word. A week later, I received the final statement from the landlord. As expected, the security deposit, $2,500, which I had paid in full from my own account when we first moved in, was docked. $450 for the carpet treatment, $300 for the wall repair. The remainder was refunded to me. But my revenge, my logical, satisfying revenge, was the next step. I paid for the repairs out of my own pocket, ensuring the landlord was made whole. Then, I filed a claim against Cora in small claims court. My claim was not for heartache or betrayal. It was for $375, her half of the documented damages to the apartment. My evidence was irrefutable. A copy of the lease, with both our signatures, making us equally liable for damages. A copy of the bank statement from 2 years ago, showing I paid the entire $2,500 security deposit. The official itemized invoice from the property management company for the $750 in repairs. And the pièce de résistance, a clear color printout of her social media post. The one showing her and Finn, with wine glasses in hand, celebrating next to the damaged wall on the now stained carpet. The post where she celebrated her freedom. I was going to show the court exactly what her freedom cost in real tangible dollars, and I was going to make her pay her share. Final update. The small claims court date was about 2 months after I moved out. Cora showed up with Finn, both of them looking disheveled and radiating an aura of indignant inconvenience. They clearly thought this was a joke, a final, dramatic act from a crazy ex-boyfriend that they could dismiss with a roll of their eyes. They didn't have a lawyer. You don't need one in small claims. They seemed to think Cora's charm and Finn's smirking confidence would be enough. It wasn't. The judge, a weary-looking woman who had clearly seen it all, called our case. I presented my story calmly and factually. I laid out the documents one by one. The lease, my proof of deposit payment, the landlord's itemized invoice for damages. When I presented the printout of Cora's social media post, the judge peered at it over her glasses. "So Miss Cora's last name," the judge said, her voice flat. "This is you, celebrating in the apartment on the date this damage allegedly occurred." Cora stammered. "It was just a party, a moving out party. He's being vindictive." "Is this your post?" The judge pressed. "Yes, but, and in this post, you are celebrating your newfound freedom from the cage of your relationship." Finn tried to step in. "Your Honor, he's just bitter." The judge held up a hand, silencing him. "I'm not interested in the drama. I'm interested in the facts. The facts are, both parties were on the lease. Damages were incurred. One party paid for them. The evidence provided," she said, tapping the photo, "strongly suggests who was responsible for those damages." The judgment took less than 10 minutes. Cora was ordered to pay me the full $375. Watching her face as the judge delivered the verdict was clarifying. There was no remorse, just pure, unadulterated fury that the world had failed to bend to her will. That I had failed to play my part as the stable, forgiving chump. The aftermath has been quiet but telling. Cora and Finn tried to be roommates, an arrangement that lasted about 2 months before it imploded spectacularly. Turns out Finn isn't so fun when he's responsible for half the bills, and there isn't a stable anchor to subsidize their lifestyle. Cora, I've heard through mutual acquaintances, is struggling. She's bouncing between friends' spare rooms. Her celebratory posts about freedom have been replaced by vague, passive-aggressive complaints about how hard it is to be an adult. It seems freedom is a lot less glamorous when it comes with invoices and consequences. Me? I have a new apartment. It's smaller, but it's all mine. The silence is comforting. I'm designing a new system, one built for a single occupant. I had to throw the damaged house model away. It was too painful to look at, a monument to a future that was a fiction. That part hurt. It still does sometimes. But I have my self-respect. I didn't stoop to her level of petty cruelty. I simply presented the facts and let the system I trust, logic, order, and consequences, do its work. She wanted to be unleashed from our shared responsibilities. Now she is. And she's paying for it, one judicially mandated dollar at a time.